China is a really unique country, revered as an economic powerhouse while also being condemned for its human rights violations and abrasive foreign policy. China is a country that is tough to write about. Beautiful animals, interesting history, and divisive political ideas abound in the world's most populous country. From the outside, China is difficult to comprehend. So now we're going to learn some weird yet fascinating facts about China. Number 1. 10% population lives in caves. In China, calling someone a caveman shouldn't be taken as an insult. In fact, Mao Zedong lived in a cave before becoming the country's leader. Today many Chinese people still live in caves, and we aren't talking about just 1 or 2 people. According to the LA Times, at least 30 million people and possibly closer to 40 million Chinese currently live in caves which are energy efficient and have a low environmental impact. Each of the Shanxi provinces is a cave. Typically has a long vaulted room dug into the side of the mountain with a semicircular entrance covered with rice paper or colorful quilts. People hang decorations on the walls, often a portrait of mounts at home or a photograph of a movie star torn out of a glossy magazine. Number 2. Capital punishments. Very few countries actually continue to put their own citizens to death. Most people believe that the death penalty is a barbaric remnant of a less ethical era for countries. Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Pakistan and Iran were responsible for 84% of executions in 2017, however China still kills more of its own citizens than every other country combined. It's well known that China does not appreciate dissent, and they are not afraid to execute their own citizens without a fair trial. Put it in perspective, the global total of executions is around 2,000 people annually. China executed a tragic 12,000 people in 2002 alone. Though that number has allegedly gone down in recent years, China stopped releasing official statistics, and many people believe that they are quietly continuing their bloody tradition. There are even reports of a death bus which drives around the country and kills prisoners quickly before driving to its next victim. Number 3. Organ harvesting. As if this couldn't get any more sinister, the Chinese government is responsible for widespread forced organ harvesting, and many people believe that their increased capital punishment is meant to fuel the $1 billion industry. Some of the more than 1.5 million detainees in Chinese prison camps are being killed for their organs to serve a booming transplant trade that is worth some $1 billion a year, as concluded by the China Tribunal, an independent body tasked with investigating organ harvesting from prisoners of conscience in the authoritarian state. Forced organ harvesting has been committed for years throughout China on a significant scale, the tribunal concluded in its final judgment in 2019. The practice is of unmatched wickedness on a death-to-death basis, with the killings by mass crimes committed in the last century, especially of Uyghur Muslims, it added. Number 4. Inaccessible clean drinking water. Access to safe and clean water is essential to human health. Therefore, it's no surprise that public concern over drinking water safety has risen sharply in recent years following a number of water pollution incidents. The Guardian released a new water quality report which found water pollution levels in China's major cities is extremely high. In Beijing, 39.9% of water was so polluted that it was essentially functionless. In Tianjin, northern China's principal port city and home to 15 million people, a mere 4.9% of water is usable as a drinking water source. One reason for this is that local governments have too often failed to crack down on polluting. The nationwide standards for the treatment of sewage are also far from sufficient despite some improvements in recent years. Wastewater water which has been used in the home, in a business or as part of an industrial process and may now contain hazardous materials remains a major pollution source, particularly in urban centers. So next time you're in China, be sure to pack a water filter or prepare to buy bottled water. Number 5. Single time zone. Some days the sun doesn't come up until 10 AM or later. People eat lunch after 2 PM or even after 4. If they're not in a rush, the school day stretches so late that children can't get home in time to catch their favorite cartoon shows. This is because China, the 4th largest country by landmass, functions with only one time zone, measuring around 4,800 kilometers from its western border shared with Pakistan to the East China Sea in the east. China covers more than 60 degrees of longitude, incorporating 5 ideal time zones into one. Number 6. Demographic issues. It's no secret that China has the largest population of any country on Earth. The 1.4 billion strong populace is equivalent to 18.47% of the total world population. That means that almost 1 in every 5 people on Earth are Chinese. In addition, this massive population is crammed into numerous megacities. 94% of the population lives on a landmass equal to 43% of China. For years, China's ruling Communist Party implemented a series of policies intended to slow the growth of the world's most populous nation, including limiting the number of children couples could have to one. The long-term effects of those policies mean the country will soon enter an era of negative growth or a contraction in the size of the total population. This is good news from an overpopulation standpoint, but China faces a serious lack of working-age citizens to support their aging retirees and pensioners. Number 7. Pigeon Army. China is training 10,000 messenger pigeons to deliver vital military communications in the event of the country's communication systems breaking down. According to the Chinese state media, the pigeons are being trained by a special unit of the People's Liberation Army in the central city of Chengdu. They will be primarily called upon to conduct special military missions between troops stationed at our borders, said Chen Hong, an Air Force expert, to China Central Television, the state broadcaster in modern warfare. Pigeons are an important part of the military because they cannot be hacked and are difficult to intercept. Number 8. Great Wall of China demystified. There is a myth that the Great Wall of China is visible from space. No doubt one of humanity's greatest architectural accomplishments, it isn't visible from space. This is false, says astronauts and remote sensing specialists. Although the Great Wall spans some 7,200 kilometers, it's constructed from materials that make it difficult to discern from space. The unglamorous truth is that the wall is only visible from low orbit under a specific set of weather and lighting conditions and many other structures that are less spectacular from an earthly vantage point. Desert roads, for example, appear more prominent from an orbital perspective. Misinformation about the barrier's visibility dates back decades. A 1932 Ripley's Believe It or Not cartoon claimed, "The wall is the mightiest work of man. The only one that would be visible to the human eye, the moon." This belief persisted into the space age since Neil Armstrong returned from the moon in 1969. He has been repeatedly asked whether he could see it. Number 9. Internet firewalls. All of the major American social media outlets and search engines Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, and Google are banned in China. There are rough Chinese facsimiles, but of course, they are highly sensitive. Well, months of unrest in Hong Kong have caused concern in mainland China, where news about the pro-democracy protests has been carefully filtered out of social media. It's common for social media companies in China to remove content that is perceived to be threatening to social stability or the ruling Communist Party. Beijing-based journalist and writer Caroline Khan say that because people can get into trouble with the authorities by posting sensitive words, some users have found creative ways to get around the censors despite the ban. China still factors into the equation for US companies. Facebook, for example, saw an estimated $5 billion in ad revenue from Chinese-based companies in 2018, making the country the company's second largest ad market. According to the adage, a firewall isn't impenetrable either, as some Chinese citizens have found ways to circumvent blocks on websites by using virtual private networks.